If you're watching this video, chances are you're probably someone like me who's living with my parents. And yeah, whenever I think we bring up this topic of talking about parents, many of us would shed away because I remember if you were going to ask myself 1 year ago to make this video talking about my parents, I'm definitely going to be dissing on them and talking about how they just do not understand me, right? How every single time when my parents come into my room, they're always talking about how's your grades? Are you working on your next summatives? What are you doing? Are you playing video games? Right? And I think it's got to a point where I also crashed out at one point. Like, literally, I got so annoyed to the point where I would just completely rage on them without going on expectation. And of course, having an Asian parent, consequence of doing that is being slapped. No matter if it's being slapped in the face or being slapped in the ass or you're being locked in your room, or it just goes on. And you get to a point where you just completely ghost them because you just don't want to deal with this anger and you just want to get rid of them from your life. And I've had this mindset for nearly my entire childhood. I'm 17 right now, and I've about less than a year before I go to college and move away from my parents. And I've noticed that genuinely for the past year, my relationship with my parents have improved. And surprisingly, it was actually really not doing a lot, but just having one simple mindset shift. And this really changed my approach on not only interacting with my parents, but really just interacting with anyone I hate or anyone I saw as enemies. So I really hope in this short little video I can hopefully give you some interesting mindset shifts or at least spark some new inspiration to at least mending this relationship, because I can really understand the pain of living with someone who you don't really want to talk to but who continues bugging you, and you just don't know how to express this fear. And of course you're scared of doing this as well because they just don't understand each other. And this brings me to my first point, which is understanding. And I think this is one of the things that many of us aren't really taught since when we're young, or it was really covered shallowly in school, which is having empathy and understanding why your parents are actually doing the things that they're doing. And you're probably like, Bosco, yes, I understand why my parents are doing this. They're doing this for the great of me, right? Like, we definitely have to go to university to get a good job, and everything that they're doing, they just keep telling me, son, you're gonna literally thank me 10 years down the line when you're an adult. You're just gonna understand. You're just gonna do the same thing to your parents, right? Hold on, because that is not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about understanding. And to explain this concept of understanding, I just came up with one very simple exercise that I also invite you to really quickly do. And no worries, it's not like a homework assignment or it's not something long. It's just something that's going to take 1 minute of your time. And I promise you that this will literally change, or at least set a better understanding or better foot into your relationship with your parents. So for a quick second, just relax yourself and feel the chair behind you, and just imagine you were 30 years older than who you are right now. So I'm 17 years old, so I'm going to be around 47. And also imagine you have an 8-year-old kid. Just imagine those two things for a second. Like, if you close your eyes and you think about, you walking into your 8-year-old room, and You can see that he's playing Fortnite with his friends, plugged into his earphone, and you can see there's, homework lying around everywhere, super messy, even though you've told him to complete your homework, stuff like that. Just imagine yourself being a parent. And then I just want you to think of one straightforward question, which is, what are the top three things that you're going to tell your son or daughter when they ask you, Mommy, Daddy, how can I live a good life? Just think about it for a second. What are the top three things that you're going to tell them? And as ideas come up, if you have like a pen and paper around, or if you want to type it on your laptop, an iPhone, this will be super helpful. So I'm just going to really quickly go get like a pen and paper. Do this exercise as well. So we quickly set a timer for 1 minute. I'm also just doing this exercise first time, so what are the top three things to live a good life? I just realized, yeah, the timer has rang, but my audio is off. So no worries if you guys don't have any ideas, or if you guys just have one or two things that you're going to tell them. But what I wrote down is, you need to be healthy, you need to find your life purpose, aka what you actually enjoy doing, and also you need a journal. And you're probably wondering now, like, what's this exercise even for, right? But if you really deeply think about the answers that you generated, most of the time you're just going to realize that these are the beliefs that have been programmed into yourself from society or from culture, or just beliefs in general that you've found somewhere, that you've tested which works for yourself, right? And it's really good to just be aware of that fact that this is something that I've been living for in my life. And I think one thing that a lot of us don't see is how it can be harmful when we also try and project these things too much, or if we unconsciously project these things to the next generation and to other people without considering their perspectives as well. And of course, with this exercise, I probably had way different answers from you guys. And it's pretty normal because, all of us have different personalities and we're born from different environments with different life experiences, right? And you're probably wondering, I mean, it's pretty common sense. And like, why am I even talking about this? And if you think for a second and imagine your parents taking this test, you'll actually start to realize that they're actually just trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do on your child. If you can really just tolerate that thinking for a second. I think one of the biggest things that are driving a lot of our parents' motivation is how, they're acting in fear. Like if we just think about ourselves in general, right? Like, whenever our friends are hanging out outside without us, or whether or not, like when we fail our school test, no matter if it's whatever subject, and let's just say there's, like a idol who came to school or some kind of famous celebrity, and like we didn't get the chance to meet them because we were somewhere else. We feel this fear of missing out on something. And I've came to recognize that this is actually the same fear that my parents are actually facing. And once you understand that, you'll begin to realize that you're also a human being and they're also a human being. And it's funny because I also am experiencing these fear scenarios, but just in a different time span and with like different types of people. And they're also experiencing, like fear from their group of friends, because if you can probably imagine, or if you just be more aware of their lives in general, my parents, they work super hard and really, I'm super appreciated for that. And they probably are talking to other parents as well. And if you think about it, they're comparing your grades to, like other parents' grades. And the reason for that is because, if we dive deeper into understanding why they're fearing that, we can see that it's because during their childhood, at least for my parents, like they did not have, like access to such great education, just like myself. And once I dig deeper into their childhood and really understand them as a person, rather than just, like being super annoyed about how they are just being so angry to me, you'll begin to realize that the reason why they are actually doing these things is because of their childhood and experiences, and they just want to do the things that are best for you, right? Having this awareness in general just made me feel like judging my parents and really keeping this cold relationship between us is really an unfair treatment to them, because they're really trying their best. And whenever, whenever I repel to them, whenever I challenge their beliefs, they feel like you don't appreciate them because you don't understand what they've gone through to fight for the position that you're in right now. And if I put it in simple terms, just think about it when someone comes up straight into your face and literally tells you that those top 3 values that you've written down from the exercise are completely useless. Like, how offended would you feel on the inside? And of course, like on one hand, you can also argue that your parents should also be more aware of these understanding and understanding how stressful it is to be a student, right? With having to cram so many tests in a short period of time and facing all of these teenage issues and everything like that. All I'm going to tell you is that if you're still watching this video, you're such a lucky individual. You're probably going to be one of the top 1% of teenagers out there, because we can see that everywhere in the world there's just violence, and these violence all come from these unresolved fear and unresolved trauma that are passed on generation to generation. And of course that causes so many of the problems that we have today, right? So really, with this channel, I hope to help us grow together and really raise awareness on these things that are subconsciously in our mind, so then we can reprogram ourselves to be individuals that are more kind-hearted and more loving. Because again, we only live one life, and what's the point of living one life full of fear, trauma, and violence when you can live it with love?